everybody. I thought I would take a break from recording videos for children and I would share my words of wisdom for all you newly qualified teachers. I'm going to start by talking about the pastoral side of things because for me that's crucial and really should be cracked within the first few days of getting your new class. Most schools keep individual records on children which discuss family issues, whether they're vulnerable or they have EAL or they have learning difficulties. And it's really, really important that you go through the list and you get to grips on each individual child. It's really difficult when you don't know them very well and you could be reading things that don't really go in. But then a few weeks later, something might happen in the classroom and there's a trigger. You think, yeah, there was a family issue or that child is vulnerable. So it's really crucial to get to know your class. If a school doesn't have that, then I would suggest you talk to the class teacher who had the children before and just ask them if there are any safeguarding issues and any family things you need to be aware of. So before you even think about teaching your literacy and your maths, I would suggest you crack behaviour. I would allow a few days to get it right and start off as you mean to go on. So as you're new to the school, make sure that you have read the school behaviour policy and that you know what the sanctions and rewards are. And for behaviour to work, you have to be consistent. You have to follow through any threats you make or promises you make, or the children will just switch off and you'll lose all authority, which you don't want in your first few days. When I first started out, I was all the children and the parents sort of came second. But I would say work on parent relationships as much as relationships with your children in your class. You need to get parents on side and there are a number of ways you can do this. When possible, be visible at the start and end of the day and make sure you appear approachable. You may not be able to talk to them there and then. You might have a meeting to attend to or a class register to take, but you can explain and just say, I really want to talk to you, can we make an appointment? Parents need to know that you are approachable and that you will listen to their needs. If there's an incident in the school day, for example, if a child bumps their head or falls out with another child, always tell the parent before the child has a chance to give them their side of the story. I think it really helps stop parents' anger if they hear it from you first, especially if it's a bumped head. I would suggest filling them up, during the day as soon as you can when something happens. If the child is involved in something with another child, I would suggest that you do not mention the other child by name. It's best just to say another child. In my experience, some parents can get together and then they can start fighting and arguing over the incident. So we've done a little bit about the pastoral side of things. Now let's think about classroom organisation. Have your resources really clearly labelled and accessible. Make sure things like pencils are kept sharpened and lids from felt tips and all the whiteboard pens work. This would just save lots of time and lots of fuss. If you don't want to do it yourself, you could even have classroom monitors doing those jobs for you. If you're in a primary school classroom, you will have noticed all the display boards. I would say before you go doing your displays, just check out the school policy. Some schools require you use certain colour background paper. Some want you to use particular fonts, and some schools want you to make sure various subject areas are covered. I would suggest laminating things you think you might use time and time again. I bought my own laminator and laminating pouches because there was always a queue for the laminator, and schools can be a little bit precious over how many pouches you use. I also bought my own staple gun. There's nothing worse than wanting to staple up your paper on displays and find the staple gun has gone missing or all the staples have run out. So I would say buying a laminator and a staple gun and a supply of staples is a really good purchase. If you do buy those things, I would suggest that you name them because they might go walkabouts. People might not realise that it's your own personal one. If you're an NQT, you will have the luxury of PPA time. Use it wisely. Try to observe as many teachers as you can, especially in the class below and above you. And also, if you can, I would suggest you go and visit other schools, especially if you're in early years and you're the only reception class in the school. It can be really good just to see what other people do, because early years is quite, I think, a grey area and people do things differently. So it'd be really good to go and get some fresh ideas. I'm not going to talk too much about planning because there are lots of videos on that already. But what worked for me was obviously planning in advance, getting my resources ready, and then on the Friday, I would file all the resources I need for the following week. I had trays with the days on, and I just do my photocopying, pop them in there, and then I knew that I was ready for the following week. Don't leave photocopying until the last minute, especially if it's an observation lesson, as there can be quite a lot of queues for photocopiers, and they often have a habit of jamming just when you need them, or the toner might run out, or paper might run out. Well, I'm going to end this video with perhaps the most important thing really, and it's going back to the pastoral side of things, and it's about you. You need to look after yourself. Teaching is a demanding, full-on job, and it's very easy to spend every waking and sleeping hour thinking about your next lesson. You really need to build time for yourself. Have some hobbies and interests out of school. Try to take your lunch break. It's easy to get caught up in the cycle where teachers are rushing around, not talking to anybody else, and just keeping on going. It's bad for you, and eventually you'll burn yourself out. So really, practice some mindfulness, a bit of yoga, and don't get into that situation where you don't want to be seen to be leaving before 6 o'clock because nobody else does, or you want to be in by 7 o'clock because everybody else is. I would say do what works for you. As long as you're getting your job done, I don't think people should be time watching. Sadly, in some schools that happens. On a similar note, I would say you have to develop a very, very thick skin. You can work your socks off and parents will still moan. It still won't be enough. You'll have many parents who are really, really grateful and give you lots of praise, but you'll also have those parents who, no matter what you do, it's not good enough for them. You may not have changed their child's reading book often enough. You may have taught their child off when their child has perfect behaviour. You will get used to it, and in time it will get easier, but it can be quite hurtful. But you do need to develop a thick skin. And likewise, when you're being observed, you may find some people observing you are quite critical. Think about what they say, reflect on what they say, and if they're offering you good advice, follow it, but try not to get too downhearted. I've observed many, many teachers in my time, and it's the easiest thing in the world to go into a class who you don't know and say, but you should have done this, or oh, you could have done that. And unless you're a class teacher and you know your class, have you got a right to say those things? I don't know. Anyway, I wish you lots and lots of luck, and if you want more support, I have many videos on my channel, so I hope you will subscribe. It would be lovely to see you again. Bye bye for now. Bye.